During the 1970s, British television discovered an unusual kind of adventure story. It was not set in distant jungles or outer space. It took place inside a prison. More precisely, inside one of the most famous prisoner of war camps of the Second World War. The series was Colditz, a drama built around a remarkable historical location, Colditz Castle in Saxony, Germany. It served during the war as Oflag 4C, a high-security camp for Allied officers who had already attempted to escape from other prisoner of war camps. These were the prisoners the Germans considered the most troublesome, persistent escapers, uncooperative officers, men who refused to accept captivity. And that unusual premise gave British television something it had rarely attempted before, a weekly adventure drama in which the central characters were permanently imprisoned. At first glance, that seems like an impossible idea for a series. Adventure stories usually depend on movement, travel, and freedom of action. Yet Colditz did something quite remarkable. It turned confinement itself into the engine of adventure. Week after week, viewers returned to the same castle, the same walls, and the same guards. Yet the drama never stood still, because inside those walls, the prisoners were always planning something. The real Colditz Castle had already become famous long before the television series appeared. During the war, the castle developed a reputation among Allied prisoners as the camp reserved for the most determined escapers. Officers who had already attempted to escape elsewhere were often transferred there, on the assumption that the castle's security would finally contain them. But the history of the camp told a different story. The prisoners of Colditz spent much of their captivity attempting to escape in increasingly ingenious ways. They dug tunnels beneath the castle, they forged documents, they built disguises. They planned elaborate escape attempts that sometimes took months to prepare. In one famous case, prisoners even constructed a glider in secret inside the attic of the castle, intending to launch it from the roof and glide to freedom. Stories like these quickly became part of wartime legend. Memoirs written by former prisoners helped spread the mythology of Colditz after the war, presenting it as a place where captivity did not mean surrender. Instead, it became a symbol of determination and ingenuity. By the time the BBC decided to turn Colditz into a television series in the early 70s, the castle already occupied a powerful place in British cultural memory. What the television series did was transform that history into a weekly drama format. Rather than focusing on a single escape attempt, the programme built an ensemble story around the multinational group of prisoners held inside the castle. British, French, and other Allied officers shared the same captivity, each bringing different personalities and different attitudes towards escape. Opposite them stood the German officers responsible for guarding the castle, including the commandant and the security officers tasked with maintaining order inside the camp. This balance created the central dramatic structure of the series. On one side were the prisoners, constantly searching for opportunities to escape. On the other were the guards, whose task was to prevent them. The result was a continuing strategic contest played out inside the confined world of the castle. The prisoners themselves were not identical characters, repeating the same behaviour. The drama worked because each officer represented a different approach to captivity. Some were driven by relentless determination to escape at any cost. For them, captivity could never be accepted as normal life. Planning escape attempts became a matter of principle. Others were more cautious, aware of the risks involved and the punishments that followed failed attempts. They balanced the desire for freedom against the practical realities of the camp. Some officers adapted to the routines of imprisonment, organising cultural activities or maintaining military discipline within the prisoner community. Others resisted the routines entirely, seeing every day inside the castle as another opportunity to challenge their captors. These different personalities created friction, debate, and cooperation among the prisoners themselves. Escape plans required teamwork, they required patience, and they often required persuading others that a particular scheme was worth the risk. Opposing them were the German officers responsible for maintaining control of the camp. In earlier wartime dramas, such figures might have been portrayed as simple villains, but Colditz took a more interesting approach. The German officers were often depicted as professional soldiers attempting to carry out their duties within the constraints of the system they served. They understood that the prisoners would always attempt escape. The prisoners understood that the guards would always attempt to stop them. This mutual awareness created a tense but oddly familiar relationship between the two sides. They were adversaries sharing the same confined world. And that tension, rather than simple confrontation, became the real drama of the series. What made Colditz particularly effective as television drama was the sense that the castle itself had become a complete world. Many successful television series build their storytelling around a defined environment: a hospital, a police station, a village, a spaceship. In Colditz, the castle fulfilled that role perfectly. The walls, corridors, and courtyards became familiar to viewers over time. The routines of camp life formed the background against which the characters operated. Meals, roll calls, inspections, and patrols created a daily rhythm that structured the narrative. Within that rigid routine, every escape attempt represented a disruption. A tunnel hidden beneath a floorboard or a disguise carefully prepared, a forged pass ready for use. Each plan attempted to exploit a weakness in the system that confined them, and this was the central brilliance of the series. The more restrictive the environment became, the more inventive the drama had to be. Confinement did not limit the storytelling, it created it. Visually, the series also benefited from its unusual setting. The architecture of Colditz Castle gave the programme a distinctive atmosphere. High walls, narrow staircases, and stone courtyards created a constant sense of enclosure. Every attempted escape had to navigate that architecture. Hidden spaces might conceal a tunnel entrance. A stairwell might offer a momentary opportunity to evade a guard. A window might become the starting point for a desperate descent into darkness. The castle was not simply a backdrop, it was an active participant in the drama. The structure of the building shaped every plan, every failure, and every narrow escape. For viewers of this series, Colditz offered a different perspective on the Second World War than many earlier television programmes. Instead of focusing on battles or military campaigns, the series explored a quieter but equally compelling aspect of wartime experience: captivity. Life inside Colditz required endurance rather than heroics. The prisoners could not defeat their captors directly. Their resistance took the form of persistence, planning, waiting, trying again. In that sense, the series captured a particular interpretation of wartime character, the idea that determination and ingenuity could continue even in the most restrictive circumstances. Once again, the drama returned to its central idea: adventure created by confinement. By the time the series concluded in 1974, Colditz had established itself as one of the most distinctive war dramas British television had produced. It demonstrated that adventure storytelling did not require exotic locations or spectacular action. A single castle, a group of determined prisoners, the constant possibility of escapes were enough. More importantly, it showed how television could transform historical memory into a compelling fictional world. The real Colditz Castle had already been part of wartime legend. The television series turned that legend into a place viewers could revisit. Every week. Within its walls, the routines of prison life continued. Guards patrolled the corridors, officers debated their latest plan. And somewhere, hidden behind a wall or beneath a floor, another escape attempt might already be underway. In the end, that was the secret of Colditz. It took a story about confinement and turned it into a story about possibility. The prisoners might remain inside the castle, the walls might never change, but the imagination of those inside them never stopped searching for a way out. And for viewers watching at home, that struggle transformed Colditz Castle into one of the most memorable settings British television had ever created. Thank you once again for listening. It's always appreciated, and I will be back on another day with another television show. Bye.